To start, SOC 2 is the security audit every software company has to pass before big clients will touch them. Riveting stuff, I know. But stay with me, because you might be surprised with how much drama hides behind Silicon Valley's favorite audit.
Go and I try to figure out, what did they build? What did we miss? Shoot, we've been doing this for years. What do they know we don't? Oh, they're not doing it. It's just don't do the work and give someone a compliance report.
My guest today is Christina Cacioppo, co-founder and CEO of Vanta, the company that turned that dreaded checklist into a $4 billion business. She got the idea after suffering through SOC 2 by hand at Dropbox, then spent a year and a half quietly building Vanta for a market that, at the time, barely existed. I'm Eric Newcomer, author of the Newcomer Substack. Let's get into it. If I say SOC 2 compliance too early, people might be like, what am I in for here?
Stop listening to this one.
But there's a lot of drama, actually, I will ask you about. But before we get to that, just on the scale of just craziness, where are we with the AI hype cycle? How wild is the behavior of your fellow startup founders today?
Pretty nuts. Also the behavior of the investor. I don't mean to put this on founders. It's, I think,
the founders is if you're going to give me the money.
Yes. Yeah. I think there's if you're going to give me this, why don't I take it? Yeah.
So you think
pretty nuts.
What's the behavior? Yeah. What are you seeing?
I think the best comparison I heard about it was it's like crypto in 2021, where there is a hype.
Bad.
Kind of. It is like a hype. And but this is a good strategy because you can it's also kind of you get the capital, you get the people, you get the capital, you get the people, and then hopefully those people are also building a real product over time, which maybe they are, maybe they aren't, but that's a place where it could diverge from crypto. But the hype round pump the stock price, I think that playbook is happening now amongst some number of the AI founders.
Round upon round. Before products.
Yeah. But the products could exist. And if they do, they could be very compelling. And the round is a great way to attract people who will make those products. And so again, it's not clear it won't work.
Do you make angel investments?
Sometimes, rarely.
And are you doing them right now?
I've just learned that it's either my best investments. I mean, this is the thing everybody learned, so it just took me too long. But it's the people I've known for a really long time, or it's the problem domains I actually know. And when it is not one of those, I generally, I think I'm a smart person and I actually just have poor judgment.
Are there people you've known for a long time and you're like, but that gives me the confidence not to invest in this company? Or just
sometimes. That has happened.
But generally, yeah, I think a sort of a friend where you're they're very capable, but this idea, I don't get it, still
I'll do those. Yeah. I'll do those. I mean, in some ways, that was the Vanta story. So in some ways that's and we got no's for that of you seem smart, but what the heck are you doing in this problem space?
Let's briefly give the context, not spend forever. I mean, you came out of you were a PM at Dropbox, right?
Yeah. And
so how do you get the idea for...
So the real story is two-part. It's I was working on Dropbox Paper, which I now describe as Notion, but better, but worse. No one uses it now. Notion deeply won, as they should have. But that product wasn't compliant, pen-tested, secure, quote-unquote, in any enterprise procurement sense. It was secure in an actual product security sense. Anyway, and I was the PM who, on the eve of launch, learned that and learned what we would have to do to go fix all those things. And we decided not to do them because it was just too onerous. We didn't have product market fit. It seemed like a bad use of time, resources, et cetera. So that was not, I don't know, that was not
and
a
Dropbox
company.
Was public at that point?
Not public, but it was 2016 Dropbox. So it was height of, sushi in the cafeteria, Chrome Panda, Silicon Valley Dropbox. It was only later, 2 years, when I wanted to start a security company. So I was literally walking around Soma talking to founders about security. And sort of realized lots of people wanted to work on security at their startup, but that wasn't what customers were asking for, so they didn't. And that's why there were no security tools for startups until their customer asked them, and they'd ask for a SOC 2. And I think it was really a prepared mind thing where I knew about this problem. I knew enough.
And SOC 2 is basically customers saying, all right, I want to make sure if you're my vendor,
exactly, this works.
You have things together.
Yes.
Give me some certification.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's basically, give me something. A third party comes in and checks everything really rigorously. So I don't have to do that work myself. I'll trust it. And that makes sense. I think it was the way you would prepare things, work with that auditor made no sense to me as PM engineer. And so that's what we tried to fix.
This is a sort of pour one out for Dropbox moment. I know. Well, Drew Houston is stepped away as CEO, right?
He just did, I think co-CEO, but like exec chairman, and
he's sort of
like co-CEO to exec chairman.
It feels like the idea that Dropbox would take its great insight on cloud and like find a sort of next thing. Never happened. Yes. And paper was obviously at one moment an effort of we're going to build, like you said, sort of a notion ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Do you think it could have gone another way, or what's your, how do you take stock of that?
I think, in an academic sense, or could you have whiteboarded logical things that made sense, that were adjacencies that could be built and worked? 1,000,000%. And there was a lot of that. I think company culture and execution wise, none of those things got off the ground.
But it had great people. Like Dropbox had all these cool. It was like one of these great networks.
Totally.
So it's like, all those people went on to be really influential.
Yeah, Town. I don't know if you thought Town, the AI agent startup, just raised a big round of fundraising yesterday. But like Jean-Denis and Tony wrote Dropbox. Like all of these folks were at Dropbox at the time.
So you have the right people, but then you're like, the culture couldn't have done it. Like, how do you square that?
I think Dropbox had the blessing and curse of. So Drew is public about, like, he'd built lots of things before, kind of File Sync and Share and Hacker News, but like that thing, he posted it on the internet and kind of 1 million people used it all the time. And it was this blessing, and then that became a $1.5 billion revenue business, and curse, because it was like, we just think of smart things and launch them, and then 1 million people use them. And that's the way the world works. And that was like so baked in. Whereas when that didn't happen, which also that like kind of never happens, there wasn't like a product development muscle to push through that and get to something with product market fit. And so it was just constantly like, new idea, didn't quite work. We must not have been smart enough, but not like talking to customers, figuring it out. It wasn't sort of like
had a machine. Like there are businesses
that have like new product development machines.
Right.
And I think, again, it was like in part because it was, I know you see this. I think the companies that develop those have first products that are good. Clearly, they got to that stage, but they're not these like, I kind of don't have to do anything and I have $1 billion of revenue products. I think when you have one of those, it's way harder to build the muscle.
What was that first thing for Vanta that helped you acquire customers?
It was like, we will get you a SOC 2. We will get you through that, and we will not pay $100,000 and take 1.5 years. Because
it used to be the domain of sort of more consultants.
It was 100% consultants. Yeah,
like a spreadsheet.
Exactly.
Right.
And so that was like, $100,000 sucked, and we brought it down to like 10 to 20. But I think the real thing was, it'll take you 3 months, not 18. And you can put your high performer, whatever, engineer on it, not your like co-founder CTO. And it was that's actually what made the market work.
You're in a space that aspires to be boring in some ways. It's like no drama. It's like, yes, you're good and safe, but it has some of the highest drama in Silicon Valley with this YC startup Delve, which I don't know, YC sort of disowned, I guess. There was basically this, it was interesting because it wasn't like reporting in the traditional sense. There was sort of like an anonymous sort of dossier.
Stalker.
Yeah. Do you know who it is, or?
I have a theory, but I do not know. I'm quite confident they don't work at Vanta.
Okay, you were not involved. Or that basically says, they're like pre-filling out a bunch of forms for their customers which allowed customers or suggested to customers that they should just sort of submit made up stuff, basically.
Right.
And then the reviewers who are supposed to be third party were like, pretty random and not doing a great job.
I think they weren't reviewing the fulsome set of things.
Right. So what, and I don't think have you talked about this?
I have not.
All right. So what?
At least outside of Vanta, And
it is still a meaningful competitor to you, right? Or did you feel their business impact?
When they were
competing with you for customers?
1,000,000%.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, especially among startup founders. Yes.
And so what is your view on it?
In this early stage automated compliance market, the dominant strategy is you have to build a bunch of stuff to actually automate and produce the evidence these auditors need. Dominant strategy, it takes a while to do, is you can also do it manually yourself. So the dominant strategy is you're like, hey, we're Vanta, but we're better and nicer, and we hold your hand because they're too big, and we're cheaper. And that is actually an excellent pitch. And you can do it. And then it's a good pitch. So people will come to you. You will handhold them through. Hopefully you're also building things. You can get to $10 million in revenue on this pitch. Then when you hit around, and then you can raise this big round and you can feel great. And then you kind of hit a wall because now at $10 million revenue, you've got a couple hundred customers. You've got a good pitch. So people are still coming in. And you've got these hundreds of customers you promised this thing to that you are trying to do in a way that doesn't scale. And you've got all this new business and
because it
sales.
takes time to deliver, you basically sell it before you've built the capability to deliver it.
And so you can kind of and then you kind of hit this wall because then you're like, okay, maybe you're a year in and people are like, hey, you said you'd help me a year ago. You said, you were going to be better than Vanta, but like, I'm nowhere. And it's your fault, not mine. And then you're like, oh, shoot, I should build things, I should hire things, but also the new business. Anyway, and you just kind of hit this wall for like a year.
And you're in a YC in the culture saying, automate everything.
Right.
Like, make it.
But it's also just like not enough hours in the day to like hire people and build the product and do the sale. And I mean, a high class problem in startups, but like it's a real problem. I'm so confident in saying this because Vanta did a version of this. All of our like 2020, 2021 competitors did a version. Like I've just seen this movie 7 times. So we watched this with Delph and we're like, oh, it's fine that they're playing this playbook, but they're gonna hit a wall. They didn't hit a wall. Kept going. And then we would go talk to founders who use their product and rave reviews. It was like, I didn't have to do anything, but it worked. And we're like, wait, what did they figure out? So we'd like go and I'd like try to figure out like, what did they build? What did we miss? Shoot, we've been doing this for years. Like, what do they know we don't? And then sometime last year, we're like, oh, they're not doing it. It's fake it till you make it, but not in the sense we did, where it's like fake it until you're building it and do things manually along the way and do your best. It's like, just don't do the work and give someone a compliance report. And so what we found was they were a ferocious competitor because fake compliance is a way better product experience for a founder than real compliance. It's way easier to do fake compliance than real compliance. And so if it's like, it's way less, it's actually no work and slightly cheaper, it's a great pitch.
What?
Great pitch.
So when you're selling to like, who is the person that cares about the SOC 2 brand, right? Or it's like I'm a startup selling to Amazon. Amazon's looking at just that I have SOC 2. I'm looking at who did it. I'm looking that it's Vanta SOC 2, or like what is Amazon doing when they're analyzing?
Okay.
Where does the actual whose reputation? Who has to care about reputation here to make this decision? So
like 10-ish years ago in Amazon, I don't literally them, but it was a like, oh, you've done SOC 2. That feels pretty good. And it was because it was like, it was in part the things you had to do, but it was in part just you had the organizational acumen to like do the whole thing. Like it was just kind of a harder thing to do. And so it was almost just a general proof of work. Vanta and others have made this very easy. And so SOC 2 is, I think, now it is less you must be a pretty competent organization. It's like, you did the thing. Great. Now, so often for these big companies now, it went from being most of the security review process to just the first step amongst many. And what often the enterprise procurement teams have done is being like, look, you have to have a SOC 2 to talk to us. And we know you can get one. Don't give us any stuff about it being too hard. Now we're going to go ask you for 7 more things because it doesn't hold quite the weight.
So is that an argument just for Delph then? It's like, whatever, if I just have to check the box, like they don't care, they're still reviewing.
So we had those debates of like, is this just, you like think like an economist and you like draw out those forces. And so we had those debates and and you're like, should we do this? We decided not to. In part because I think while that is an excellent experience for a founder, you certainly lose credibility with enterprise procurement. You also lose credibility with like mid-market and enterprise security teams. And if you aspire to serve both markets, you cannot do this. If you aspire to just serve founders, we are actually like, maybe this works. We don't want to play that game. And then the thing that changed was someone in March or so published a 70,000 word anonymous, deeply researched, very online investigation into all the practices, and that just like caught fire on Twitter.
Right.
For a week.
And how much of your business is SOC 2 right now? And how much are you trying to make Vanta an overall stamp of this is like a safe partner?
So we actually don't break it down by standard anymore, but I would say SOC 2 alone actually very little now. Obviously, or like maybe not obviously, but often it is the entry point for an American startup. Yes, that is a first thing. But if that startup stays alive, they're adding on different frameworks, they're adding on different product areas. And one switch we made over the last 4 years is talking much more about the product in general and its feature set versus just a SOC 2. Kind of for the reasons you imagine, right? Now, there's lots of ways to get a SOC 2. We can quibble about quality, but to your earlier question, the dominant brand is SOC 2. It's not Audit Firm SOC 2 or even Vanta SOC 2. While I would like it, SOC 2 has a ton of brand stickiness itself.
And for SOC 2, do you also use outside auditors? Like, is Vanta giving? Why doesn't Vanta just give the stamp instead of outside
per
audit?
SOC 2, you can't audit your own work.
Oh, and so because you're helping them do the work.
We are helping them do the work.
Right.
Yes. So we have always worked with outside auditors. Again, early in the company's life, we had all these debates and had it's like, why can't we just be the auditor? Or maybe we, get some friends to start an audit firm. That sounds good. And we're basically like, it sounds good in the short term, and that looks terrible in the long run. And it kind of doesn't pass the front page test. And so don't do it. We've had competitors who've done have the friends started, have the former employees started, whatever. But we've just been like, that doesn't, if you're playing the long game, that will not work.
And so just to be clear, do you think Delve behaved unethically?
Yes. I think they told their customers, we are implementing security practices for you, and they were not. And I think the Substack suggests they knew the auditors they were working with were not rigorous in looking at all of the things they should. And in response to knowing that, sent them more business.
And now I've said, okay, we're going to try and clean up our auditors maybe a little bit.
Yes.
Have they gotten away with it?
I think no. And just I know what percentage of their, call it February customer base Vanta has, which is
You had a lot of customers say, oh no, redo it for us, or
yeah,
or we're in the process.
We maybe thought we did it, but just those days, so much new business. There was just immediate exodus. And so I don't, this seems like not the brand to try to rehabilitate and the space to try to do it again. I think those founders could go build something else very successful in another space.
A very different company, one that likes to do everything. Rippling is now running its SOC 2. What, I don't know. Have you seen them in the marketplace?
We actually, we certainly saw the announcement. And I think they are, this is not, I think everyone thinks they are aggressive and ferocious and not to be underestimated. We haven't seen them much yet, but we understand they are aggressive and ferocious.
I want to zoom out and just talk security for a minute, because AI seems like it could be sort of a total nightmare for security. It empowers, every rogue actor in the world with, intelligence to fire up and create voices to, so many new vectors of attack. What do you see and what are you recommending that the startup world does with this sort of new AI vector of attack?
Yeah, I think maybe to state the obvious, it's going to be really interesting and fun on some level, but security overall is just this, one of the things that drew me to it is this kind of cat and mouse game where both sides are quite smart and sort of an ongoing, competition. And I think these models, well, we can talk about whether they will, send us all into UBI land and make us all potatoes or something. They seem, quite good at finding vulnerabilities in code, at least as a discrete statement. And that is something we will all have to grapple with. And so I kind of do subscribe to I think even if you are an AI maximalist, security companies, cyber companies, more important in the future, not less. AI is this huge tailwind for them. And I think actually to your founder point, I think founders will have to care about this earlier, in part so nothing happens and, they don't become a bad Twitter headline. In part because I think enterprise procurement teams are going to push on them, because the enterprise procurement teams or enterprises get how worrisome this is. They will push it on procurement. Procurement will push it on the founder. So I think that's the other vector, whether or not the founder kind of intrinsically thinks about this.
The AI of it all, how much do you find leverage for your own business?
So much. Okay. So much. I think twofold.
As someone, to be clear, who started this conversation being oh, the AI hype is out of control. People are...
Yeah, I think no.
I just say that to contextualize for the listener who's AI skeptical, that this is coming from someone who sees some of the overexuberance.
Yeah, I would say like in the market, I mean also in tech, but like in the market, yes, some of that of overexuberance is a nice word for it. Also, I think parts of the tech are real, and I think it's getting, and the parts that aren't, some of them are getting better very quickly. So I think betting against the tech getting better is rather silly. It's like betting against San Francisco a couple of years ago, like rather silly bet. But yes, I think a couple of things. So one, we see a tailwind, and we've seen a bunch of acceleration in the business just because there's more startups being created.
So some of it's just customers.
Exactly.
Customer creation.
Like everyone cites, but it's the best we have, like this publicly, the Stripe Atlas stat of twice as many companies founded in January 2026 as January 2025. I'm like, well, they all survive? No, but like 2x on your baseline is pretty good. So you see that a lot of the compliance workflows are pretty manual and workflow based. And so there's just things we can automate now we couldn't have 2, 3, 5 years ago. And that is very cool. There's product experiences we wanted to build. We couldn't. We can now build. Great. And then the other part of it is, while exciting, AI is also very scary, especially to enterprises. And like, what are the models doing? What are the agents doing with what data? What the heck's going on? And that just like that scrutiny is like right in Vanta's those questions are like right in Vanta's wheelhouse.
Are you having engineers come to you and say, like potential customers and say, oh, I'm just gonna ask Claude, like make me SOC 2 compliant?
Yeah, we've
like,
done that too. Yeah. So yeah, and we actually what do we do? Probably once a month, we'll like try to rebuild Vanta with Claude from scratch. Just to, not that we're probably going to use it.
Just so once it's possible, or
exactly. It's
you don't
like,
want
what
someone else
is
figuring
this?
it out
Exactly.
first.
And there's a bit of rebuilding software is still hard. I think the places where, at least internally, we've seen we are much more likely to rebuild software and do it well is when the process is fully internal. It doesn't touch a customer, it doesn't touch a partner, it doesn't touch an auditor, it doesn't touch a regulator. It's super internal. Those are the places where you're like, we've experimented, we have some stuff, we've done some stuff. I think in talking to folks, those are the places. I think when it touches regulation or audit or a place where like you want to be correct all the time, that's when like, yeah, maybe you can build some version, but like, do you want to maintain that and ensure that?
Right, because when you worry about regulators and compliance, it doesn't matter just what the output is, it matters how it got there.
Exactly.
Whereas when it's just internal,
I don't know,
it's
an IT
like
ticket that your team has filed to get access to Figma, whatever, pick your favorite Claude, whatever, pick your tool. Yeah, like I've got that.
What are sort of the next what is the next SOC 2, or what are the other compliance standards?
There's a host of, SOC 2 is done by the American Institute of CPAs. Started in the US. We've exported it, like we've exported lots of American culture. There's a Swiss standards body called ISO, International Standards Organization. They do a set of standards. I think a lot of these standards bodies are professional associations or nonprofits. They're basically communist standard setting bodies where you've got to get everybody on the same page. And then it's just hard to respond to technology quickly with that.
So some of them are flawed. You're not embracing them? Or?
No, I mean, we are. But I think it's just like they have deliberative bodies that purposely they're like the US legislature. You're like, there's a reason this is large and like has lots of constituents and takes a long time. And that is like a good thing baked into our founding principles. But when you talk about like you want an agent standard.
Right. Is that happening? Or are you going to do a proprietary one?
I think that like it's on to the audit your own work. If it's just a Vanta standard, would it work? Again, interesting product
your
debate.
Team customer. That continues to be the posture, rather.
But one of our PMs has made a like agent runtime monitoring standard that we actually gave to the Cloud Security Alliance, but a like consortium of cloud security tech companies, and truly gave it to them. But of like, here's an agent runtime standard. You all are in a much better position to push this than we are. That's called ARM, AARM. And so there's like things like that I think we will continue to do, but we will not, I'm not sure. I understand when Vanta the business wants the Vanta standard. I'm not sure that solves problems for everybody else.
I don't know if this is too far afield from what you do, but I'm very interested in this problem that we don't have yet really right now, but agentic commerce.
Yeah.
This idea that I have an agent. One of my Cerebral Valley co-hosts, Max, I think had a Claude bot like bidding on a wine auction site on his behalf. And lucked out that it didn't way overbid, only like slightly overbid. But, we're empowering these agents, or will be soon and can now, to spend money on our behalf. Like that could unlock like a ton of spend because they're like, it's like, oh, it's sort of a buy first question. Later, it's very obvious how you open up a new spending avenue when you have an agent spending on your behalf. Like, who do you think governs that? Or do you have any sort of view? Like, do you play any role? This is far from what you do? Or
kind of. I mean, I think to that, like one of the tough parts of all of that is these things are non-deterministic, which we all know, but it's not like you can like stick a bunch of lines with capital letters and exclamation points in your agent's MD or your Cloud MD, and then it like won't bid up all the way. Like, I don't know. You can suggest it doesn't bid up all the way, right? And so one of the things we've experimented with internally is like, how can you insert deterministic guardrails in some of this? And it's actually probably not in the prompt files because, again, those are at the end of the day best efforts. And so we've played with this around consent, like agents that ask for consent and agents that collect sensitive information or like credit card numbers, right? These places where you're like, there are existing obligations to keep this stuff secure. You can tell your agent not to accept a social security number, a credit card number, but it might. And how do you think about determinism there? And so I'm like more optimistic about that given how all the prompt files are like best effort.
Feels like we'll change norms too.
Yes.
Or it'll be easier.
I think that's true.
There'll be sites like if Amazon accepts agents, they'll let me unwind some of that. Because Amazon would obviously benefit from the sort of like willingness to just like,
you want a white t-shirt? I got you 17.
Sure, great. Yes. And so if like a larger percentage of customers return them than already, they're probably okay with that to take the increased spend. So then we just evolve new norms. Does that world feel close? True. Like, or do you think I'm
some of it actually. No,
too AI pilled here?
No, I think it does feel close. I think we're starting to see it in some of like the AI assistant sort of things. Yeah, where you want to send them off. And I think we related to the wine thing, but the one thing I built for myself, it's very silly, is like there's a couple like specific products where you're like, okay, if stuff like this shows up on eBay, like tell me immediately. And I don't want to check eBay every day, and eBay alerts aren't, and I don't want 17 eBay anyway, whatever.
You won't tell us what category this is, or?
Oh, it's close. It's like maybe unsurprising.
I thought it was gonna be Pokemon cards,
No. It's like very specific, like vintage clothing. Which cool, but like there's definitely price thresholds where I feel like just buy the thing. Like don't let anybody else buy it if you find it. Yeah, totally.
What, you worked as an investor briefly,
right?
2
years.
It was early stage.
Yeah, it was Union Square Ventures, so it was like seed and A.
Yeah, the best of the best early stage.
The best. Yeah.
What, I mean,
prestige brand.
The investors, I guess, are culpable for some of the mania that we're seeing right now. I mean, let's usually I ask VCs to talk endlessly about founders. To have a founder, talk about the VCs a little bit. Like what? There's so many trends happening. One, I mean, there's this rise of like the mega funds. Yeah. From the founder perspective, like, how does that change your life?
It's funny. I actually think it, so I was in venture 15 years ago, so like one old, but like so long ago. And I think over the last 15 years to the mega funds, it's like now almost everyone is playing an AUM game, an assets under management game, right? It's a mega funds. And you're like, well, first you've got to raise them and then you've got to deploy them. And the faster you deploy them, the more you can get another. And then like fees off of that. And while most, I think, firms aren't so craven to like just think about it as fee maximizing, it's like definitely a powerful economic incentive. Like the faster you deploy, the faster you can raise another one. And so there's just like the amount of capital in Silicon Valley philosophically, not just like the geography.
That's how I use it.
Is the like geographic version of it, or sorry, not that, the philosophical version of that is like so much greater than 15 years ago. And so there's there's capital everywhere. Again, when I was it's like so cute to think about the rounds when I was at USV, which right before I got there, it was like 1 million on $4 or $5 million, seed rounds. And then when I got there, it was like 3 on 10, and you're like, what even are these numbers now? But because there's so much money chasing so many things, you can get funded. I think everyone's incentive is for you to like raise larger and larger rounds again because of the assets under management. I think you've seen a lot of these, what used to be a like artisanal game is now like a financialized profession where they are bigger firms. They operate more like a Goldman Sachs, then Allen and Company, to use the investment banking thing, right? It like used to be a bunch of Allen and Company equivalents,
right,
or these like boutique-y.
But people
artisanal
say you still, pick based on the partner, not the firm.
I think you still should. I don't think very many people do, but I think you totally should.
But they behave like Goldman. It's like one comes in, one comes out. It's like the firm backs you. I mean, for you, it's, I guess all that capital is great because they're creating new customers.
Yes.
Bad because they're creating new competitors.
Yep. Yep.
I assume. I mean, some of the companies
some
we
of that.
talked about.
I also think I'm too like Pollyanna-ish about this because making money has always been a core part of Silicon Valley. And, all the critiques I'm about to say, you could apply to 1999 too. But I do feel like there's something of a social contract that's just broken or different. The old Silicon Valley social contract was, you join this company, you get equity, we will all be rich together. And that was different than the East Coast semiconductor firms in like the 70s. And it was different than finance or consulting, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever. And I think we've seen now a handful of acquisitions that are like, oh, you had equity in the company?
Right. All these aqua.
Okay.
People call them acqui-hires, but they're like license and poach deals, basically. Where,
and again, straight Pollyanna-ish. Also, probably I live in a glass house, so I'm gonna regret this. But like, those just feel like philosophically different, and a bit of like that's why the Trader 8 left Shockley Semiconductors, because they didn't have economics in the thing, and like they and like a handful of East Coast or like West Coast venture capitalists started Silicon Valley in a like 1970s sense. And it feels like we've now kind of forgotten some of that. And it's like, oh, I'm the founder. I get it.
Right. Well, there's a funny evolution. So
returns.
One, it's like we have old school venture capital, which is clubby, stage financing. It's sort of like...
That's fair.
It's like the stage financing is good because it feels like you have to prove your business along the way. Whereas right now, firms, if they would just want to deploy capital, they just sort of keep investing in their own companies.
Yep.
There are these lessons that sort of doubling down on ownership is the way to win.
The progressive quick financing to make you seem like a winner, ergo you're a winner.
Right.
Which I think is not wrong. Like that logic might not be wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like the next wave is just the sort of small business or like the 3-person business that raises very little money and uses sort of AI tools to forgo venture capital.
I really like that vision. Who's doing that today, though?
It's like all a story. I feel like, Midjourney is the sort of the best example of refuse to raise funding. Yeah, I know. I'm sure they made a lot of money. Like I think
that's fair. Like everyone's
now
great.
They're like exploring other things. So I think they did pretty well. I don't know how much it's still like, not by venture capital standards, but they don't have to play by that same game. I think there was that famously the New York Times did a profile of
I know exactly
the 1-person business. It was then secretly a 2-person business that then it seemed like it was pretty made up.
Right. Today.
Yeah. So our, I guess, archetypal example was potentially fake, which is, I guess, very of the AI moment.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So you don't feel like looking at your like friends in Silicon Valley that's a true story.
No.
Right.
No. But I kind of wish it were like the businesses that I think that stuff used to get derided as lifestyle businesses. And those were kind of like, oh, you're not ambitious. You're running a lifestyle business.
Right.
Where I think often it was like, oh, you're just running a proper business yourself and you own 100% of it and you control your own destiny and make your own decisions and can pull out millions of dollars a year if you want. You're like, that's actually a nicer dynamic than...
Right. I run a lifestyle business, not to pull millions of dollars out of it a year, but otherwise empathize. But okay,
if you think about like, your situation versus like pick your growth stage founder, different problems. But like, it's not obvious to me the growth stage founder has it any better than you do. Although they get more, I don't know, they could probably get invited on more podcasts.
Well, you just host your own.
There you go. That's your constant.
Yeah. I don't know. Media is just like, I've never tried to fundraise. I sort of like had the advantage of the Substack, paid a better salary than Bloomberg. Eventually I had money where I was like, oh, I should spend it on, have an employee make my life better, get the business in a better place. Then we figured out events. So you hire a few more people. Yeah. It's always had this like logical, somewhat linear type growth, up and down, not the type of thing you'd tell some amazing story. I'm like, invest in me. And then just raising capital once you own all of the business to sell like 10%.
Yeah.
It becomes like, why? Like right now I don't report to anybody.
Yes.
Then I report to you for like a little bit. Like it just like, so it's never really made sense.
Yep.
Besides the like sometimes envy at media companies that raise money. So they have a valuation. And people are like, oh, this is a big deal, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And I guess I don't know. I'm learning this as I go, certainly.
Yeah. Do you feel like it hurts you in attracting talent? Even if competing against media companies?
That's a good question. I'm sure it does from like being like Semaphore or it's just like, I think, I'm attracting sort of people who specifically get what we're doing.
Yep.
You know, I mean, some of it, I have sort of a mix of people who came up through the business, people I had deep relationships with who sort of got it. And then I think our two newest hires, both were sort of like venture ecosystem. So in some ways they got what we were doing more than necessarily were purely chasing like the best media opportunity. Yeah. And so I do think in sort of what, I want to be sort of really strong in startups and venture capital.
Yep.
And so less in sort of like a media ego game and more people who really get venture. And so then I don't know that it matters a ton, but it's an interesting question.
Yeah, that would I think people would say things about it. But again, in reality, does it?
Like does it hurt? For your people, like I feel like the fault of like the software engineer is that they chase high valuation companies instead of companies that see upside. Yes. And so in some ways,
that is so
that's sort of the inverse of what you're talking about, which is like, well, they could make the mistake of seeing that you're really established and legit and therefore
you want to join like right before the big fundraising round, not right after, but everyone joins right after.
Right. And that's just like always the case.
Always the case. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, what is your recruiting strategy today?
It is for engineers.
Or just, for sort of high leverage roles.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is in this AI moment, the people or the companies that win will have distribution, product market fit, demand, and like a bunch of data to use as private tokens and do things that like the models can't. And turns out Vanta has those things by virtue of having 16,000 customers. And, you pick your...
So you sell them on why this business is sort of differentiated and why they should bet on
and like case. And so it's that at a business level, and then on a product building level, again, you're like, here's this domain that might seem sleepy and boring that is so amenable to agents. Come build them here again with the private data, the private tokens, like with a team that is like running evals and like doing the things. Like, come do that here.
Do you want to be an accounting firm?
No.
What is
like financial accounting?
Yeah.
No.
Well, I just think of areas where agents are sort of independently doing compliance that people are. Sort of
I think we have our own parallels in like IT accounting, IT attestation. That's what it's actually called. But like those ideas applied to like a IT and security domain, but
IT,
not the money part.
Right. Security.
We're not going to go compete with.
Right.
Yeah.
What digits and
it's also just like to the enterprise, it's just a very different buyer. Like we're like CISO org, CFO is a whole other ball game.
We'd gotten into the investing piece. I mean, in the news, talk about an early stage prestigious firm. I mean, Benchmark.
Yeah.
Now I think the Wall Street Journal is saying that they're raising a growth fund. I'm curious, like, it's just like everybody's accepting this world of like mascot. USV might be the last sort of elite holdout. I'm sure there are other. I mean, what, like...
I don't know what Forerunner's doing, but I think of them as...
Forerunner always had... But they had, like, bigger funds.
Did they? Okay.
Yeah. I think they certainly had $1 billion funds. Okay. I think their earlier stage funds did better, but, I mean, there are people like Floodgate. Like, to some degree, I don't hear about them. I don't know where they've made the
I don't
next
either.
generation
I just, like, haven't...
pivot. But,
first round?
Oh, yeah. Have they gone bigger?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was just trying to think of like
first round I think is
like
holdout.
Who's in this cohort?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So what do you make of Benchmark allegedly?
Oh, I think it's what do I think? I think I don't know really anything.
No, you're like,
secret.
I know
I'm
too
just
much.
opining. Anyway, so like classic VC over here, opining on like stuff they don't know. Back at you. But I do, I guess, kind of read it a bit as we tried to not play the AUM game and it doesn't work. And maybe and I don't know if it's like, we felt like we could compete and win founders approval or they'd want us to do the deal, and then it would fall apart because they would get because we couldn't write the check size they wanted. Exactly. There's so much money. And it's like, and we still want to lead deals with founders we like. And so you've got to write bigger checks. So you've got to have bigger funds.
Right.
Like that's just like the surface read
for a long time, to the extent you can hold on and say, we're benchmark, we have our unique terms.
Right.
It's a great model. Like you want to hold on to that for as long as you can, because then you're getting ownership at a better price, and then people quickly
also
mark
there's
it
like
up.
Again, all of Silicon Valley is a status games, and there's a status piece of that. It's like we don't have to compete on everybody else's playing field.
Yeah,
so good.
I did a piece
Prestige brand.
six months ago.
Yeah,
I mean they were down to 3 guys: Peter Fenton, Eric Vistria, and Chetan Pudiganta. And it was pretty negative for like a great firm. I mean, I said in the piece that like
there were some good tweets of that era.
I mean, yeah. Well, I think I'm getting ahead of like the benchmark's doing just fine.
Yeah.
I think my point in the piece, first of all, was that like LPs, always make sense to invest in benchmark, and they would do very well. And certainly, I saw that Cerebras was a good investment. I don't think I knew it was like going to be the level that it is, but still. And I will say on the Cerebras front, it was outside of the typical benchmark behavior.
It's hardware.
They did.
It's tech.
No. But like even they raised a standalone set of money to invest in it. So they did it. That was a growth deal before this growth fund.
That's fair.
Anyway, so now Benchmark, more than half a year later, has hired Ev from KP.
Yeah.
They brought on Jack Altman. So now they are back at 5.
Yeah, they're back.
And my whole point in the piece was they were holding on to an old strategy and claiming the new partners run the firm and it's a dynamic firm, but not letting the new partners reinvent the strategy. And so clearly now they brought in these new people. Ev, has a background in growth investing. Like he came up through Bond. Benchmark is the ultimate, like Silicon Valley really is a small world. You've met many, these people. Like it is, I mean, do you miss, I mean, is it still a small world? Do you miss it? At once, I was sort of saying earlier that like the old venture model, is elitist and a closed club. But there's something nice about the community where sort of people have reputations, people know each other, and therefore, if you're a bad actor, your reputation matters. Where in this world, it feels like
does that always happen in venture?
No, people are dicks back then. Now you're right. Now Andreessen would say, we have to be more founder friendly, where it used to be. I don't know. What's your view on this sort of small world of Silicon Valley?
It definitely is a small world. And also San Francisco is a small village, not a city, a small hamlet. And like everyone knows everyone. And there's parts that, it's like the great and terrible parts of that are everything you'd imagine. I don't have anything interesting to say. I think the parts of venture that were compelling is done right. It's a really like intellectually interesting job because you're just like learning about new stuff, trying to figure out which way things are going and applying that. You get to talk to smart people all day long and you get to bring them in and be like, I don't know anything about, chips. You explain it to me. Hopefully you're like slightly more elegant than that. But like then they do. I think it's like being a journalist in that.
Right.
It's like
you get to sort of learn everything, get excited about other people's business.
And people answer them. It's really cool. I think there are definitely parts I struggled with was they're not teams. Like, it's not like a soccer team. At best, it's a swim team running relays. But, like, you are in the pool alone.
Right.
Even at the most teamy firms, it's, like, investing.
And all these venture firms have, like, fucked up dynamics.
Also that. They're all, like, they are, like, it's funny. They're, like, someone gave me this 10, 15 years ago. They're, like, your uncle's small business. If your uncle's small, but whatever. It's, like, your, hometown small business. They just happen to manage $3 billion and then, like, but it's like the uncle small business, hometown small business dynamics with $3 billion, which then it just creates.
I feel
really
like we're seeing the path
outcomes.
not taken, or the psychology here is you're like, oh, this was the other life that I did not pursue.
Yeah.
Like, do you think, like, was Vanta more successful than you thought, or like, there's a world where like you're like, there's just like there's a world where it's like, oh, I've been a VC. I feel like there are all these VCs who are like, I should go build a business.
Yeah, and then it's freaking hard.
Then you're like, oh man, I built like a real business people are excited about, or like, how does it? Has it gone sort of as you imagine? I don't know.
I think it's like, you probably have a version of it. It's both. You both, like, when you start these things, you're like, yeah, definitely it's going to work. Like, otherwise I would like go the other path. But like, I got this. And then partially being like, statistically, no one has it. Like, statistically, these things don't work. And both are true. at any point. And so it's like kind of balancing those two. I think a thing I found is I actually do really like the work of company building, which one I feel very lucky for because there's like infinity work.
Like the team part of it?
I like the team part of it. I like the, where like Vanta is both doing fantastically well and there's 9,000 things that are messed up. But there are 9,000 different things than used to be messed up. It's kind of, there's always 9,000 things, but they change. And that's actually what I feel really lucky for. Because I think the like insanity and I hate this and burnout is when it's like, no, it's broken in the same way. And I've tried to fix it and I can't.
Exactly.
And that's when it's like, forget this.
I feel like that's something I'm learning right now. It's like, okay, you can have problems. They can't be the same problems. If you have the same problem, you need to solve it or something's not working.
Yeah.
But if they're different problems, that's good. You're growing, changing, whatever.
Totally. And it's like, don't measure how many problems there are because there are always 9,000. Like that you're just going to lose. But I like do the path not taken like a little bit, but I actually really like the work.
Right.
I find it like hard and rewarding and interesting and it changes and I get to learn a bunch of stuff and like I'm only sort of good at it, then I get better, then it changes. Right. And like, I really like that.
Christina, this was so nice to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's our episode. From AI haters to SOC 2 compliance havers to failed candidates for the governor of California. This is the Newcomer Podcast, where we chop it up on all things Silicon Valley. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. Go read the Newcomer Substack if you want to get really in the weeds and understand the real business of venture capital and startups at newcomer.co. If you still yearn for podcasts, I've got the Cerebral Valley Show with Max Stroud and James Wilsterman. Otherwise, probably see you in about a week. Thanks for all your support. That's our show.